Good morning, and thank you for joining our webinar 50,001 Ready. We will be starting in approximately 1 minute. Well, good morning. This is Terry Albrecht with Waste Reduction Partners, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's webinar. I want to welcome everyone to the webinar entitled 50,001 Ready, a tool to pursue an energy management system. Our webinar today will run from now until about noon, and we are super excited to bring you this content this morning. Today's webinar is being hosted by Waste Reduction Partners and the North Carolina Environmental Stewardship Initiative, which you will learn more about both these programs later in the webinar. These two programs are part of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, which has a mission to support pollution prevention strategies and is actively promoting energy efficiency and sound energy management practices as part of the North Carolina Clean Energy Plan. We're really fortunate to be collaborating with Advanced Energy on this webinar and with Mike Stowe, who will be our featured speaker. And a special thanks to the Landesgau Regional Council, which administers the Waste Reduction Partner Program. Here's a glimpse of today's agenda. After some housekeeping, we're going to conduct a couple of brief polls and then jump right into our presentation by Mike Stowe, which will be covering about 50 minutes of content. Mike will be covering a lot of resources throughout his presentation, but you will also hear from Angela Barger, who's the manager of the Environmental Stewardship Initiative, and myself about the Waste Reduction Partner Program. We will be having a question and answer session at the last segment of our webinar, and I'll get into some details on how to do that. All right, so a few housekeeping issues. If you're having any technical difficulties, please refer back to your invitation email about testing out your system. If you're having any audio issues using or hearing the webinar through your voice over IP connection, as you log into the webinar, you do have the option to use your telephone. The numbers are listed here because you're probably not hearing me if you need to do this, but there is an access code as well, and you will also receive a PIN to control your phone. It's always best to use voice over IP with these webinars, but if you can't do that or you're not in a situation where you have that audio, you can use the phone as a backup. And the webinar ID also is posted on this slide in case you need to utilize that in case you're accessing this webinar on some other platform. We will be making a recording of this webinar and sending out a PDF of the slides at the end. And most importantly is that everyone is muted. All the attendees are muted on this webinar, but we're going to encourage you to ask questions at any time. And you're going to do that by using the question tool on your menu of the GoToMeeting bar. So type in your questions at any time. Near the end of the webinar, Angela Barger will be reading some of those questions aloud, and Mike and all of us will be responding to those questions. So really encourage you to use that tool, find it on your menu, and write your questions as we go. So right now we're going to begin to learn a little bit about you as the audience by doing a couple of quick polls. So I'm going to launch a poll. And if you can fill this out, we're asking what sector does your organization represent? And we'll learn a little bit about who is online today. So with most of you all voting, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. And just as some feedback, about a third of you are manufacturing, about 30% government, 8% schools and universities, and 29% others. So maybe we have some other consultants and service providers out there. So thank you for answering that first poll. And we're going to have one more question. And this question is going to ask you kind of where you are on the continuum of your energy management program. So we'll give everyone just a minute to answer that. A little bit more reading in this poll. Okay, with most of the votes in, this is a little bit more interesting. A little over a third of you are really in the nascent steps of energy management programs. 20% have some programs, and 30% are exploring ways to create more formal programs, and about 14% of you are saying you're actively pursuing an energy management system, and maybe this 50,001 model that we'll be covering today. So thank you so much for working on those polls. Okay, so now let's go ahead and introduce our featured speaker. It gives me really great pleasure to introduce Mike Stowe with Advanced Energy today. Mr. Stowe is a senior environmental engineer with Advanced Energy with over 30 years of experience in manufacturing with various positions in production management, maintenance manager, plant engineer, and other positions. Mike is an industrial energy efficiency expert and has worked in many industrial processes and facility systems. Mike holds ISO 50001 certifications and is a Department of Energy recognized speaker on this 50,001 ready topic. Mike is really one of the most knowledgeable SAGE consultants that I know, and I know you're really going to enjoy and benefit from his presentation today. So with that, I'm going to turn the controls over to Mike, and he's going to pull up his slides and we'll get started.
Okay, Terry, can you see my
title
slide?
And just to let everyone know, you can expand that screen on your display.
Okay, thank you so much, Terry, for the opportunity and the kind words. I appreciate it. I tell most people I've lived so long that people let me talk about stuff and think I know what I'm talking about. So that works out really well. But I did spend a lot of time in manufacturing plants, about the last 30 years, making stuff is what I tell people, making stuff. And it's very important. Everything we touch and see around us is made somewhere. And the energy we use for that is important to manage. So we'll go ahead and get started. The topics that we want to kind of look at today, why do you want to do strategic energy management? Why 50,001 Ready? And then we'll look at 50,001 Ready, some of the details of the 50,001 Ready Navigator tool that DOE has developed. And then we'll talk about some ways to get started. The cohort model, which we have participated in and believe works very well. It's certainly possible to work individually. The cohort model does work, and then some ideas on next steps. But I kind of looked at this as a treasure map. If you think of energy as finding the treasures and nuggets of energy to save, 50,001 Ready is really a perfect map to help you get from point A to point B, versus just trying to read the standard by itself and interpret that. 50,001 really helps you do that. The next slide we have is, this slide was developed by DOE and I've added a little bit to it. But basically, if you look at energy management, there's, levels of energy management. And you can see that as you get higher in the pyramid or the triangle, there's less participants because it's harder, it's more rigorous, and less people go there. But you've got the basic foundation of energy management, which we do teach that. The second step, or the tan block, is kind of where we are today, talking about some programs to help you get started in energy management, not necessarily getting certified. The third blue box is getting actually certified in ISO 50001. And then the peak is, of course, the DOE Superior Energy Performance Program, which really is like a very rigorous system. And if you think about this, the basic block may be elementary school, the tan block maybe you get a bachelor's degree, or high school, bachelor's degree, master's degree, and PhD, kind of those levels of. And there's increasing commitment and complexity as you move up this continuum, and increasing numbers of participants. And one thing, our philosophy that we've adopted for 50,001 implementation is to meet people where they are. They may be at the very bottom of this basic foundation, may not have a spreadsheet with their energy even in it, and just really basic foundational things. And then you can move on to programs like the Better Plants, Better Buildings, 50,001 Ready. There's lots of programs that just start showing some improvement and really formalize a little bit. And then, of course, you got certifications. So why strategic energy management? 33.63 quadrillion BTUs. That's a huge number. That's the amount of energy in the United States that's consumed by the industrial and commercial sectors. Quadrillion is a 1 followed by 15 zeros, and that's even more money than the federal government spends, which is kind of unbelievable. But a quadrillion is even past a billion and a trillion, and then you get to quadrillion. So it's a huge number of energy that's used by manufacturing and commercial sectors. So the whole point of strategic energy management is to, whatever you're making in your manufacturing plant, you want to make more with less energy, basically following lean principles of eliminating waste. And this little diagram we'll talk about more, but you want to reduce the losses. Energy is just like anything else. It's wasted, you pay for it, and then you waste it, and trying to minimize that is very important. And we also want to look at reducing energy intensity as part of our energy management. If you're melting steel, we want you to use less MMBTUs per ton of steel melted, or less MMBTU per linear yard of cloth. Or if you're making widgets or gears or individual items, less unit energy per unit of production. So looking at energy efficiency, I love this little diagram. It's very simple. You can think of this as a process, a manufacturing line in your plant, a department, your entire plant, your entire corporation. But basically on the left-hand side, that's what you pay for. You pay for the electricity, you pay for the natural gas. Once you've bought it and paid for it and it comes into your plant, what you do with it is up to you and your energy management systems. And what you want to do is maximize the energy out of your system and into your product. So you want to add value with every drop of energy you buy, and you absolutely want to minimize this error of loss. So if you can imagine this, say for a boiler or a small piece of equipment, an air compressor, you're paying for the electricity to run that air compressor. You're getting some electricity, effectively adding value to your compressed air system, and you have lots of losses in your compressed air system that can potentially be overridden and save energy. And this can be applied at any level, from a discrete piece of equipment to a whole plant. Along the same lines of energy intensity and energy efficiency are related. So you want to increase energy efficiency to reduce energy intensity. So you're going to make your boiler more efficient, your process heating more efficient, your compressed air more efficient, and then overall you will reduce your amount of energy consumed per widget, per ton, per linear yard, per square foot, per whatever production unit you might have. So another thing to think about in strategic energy management is understanding your transformation. And transformation in the plant is your raw materials, converting that to a finished product. In this case, a very simple example, you have a lump of clay and you have a finished Indian type Native American vase. And that requires energy to get from the lump of clay to the finished vase. A second, more complicated version is, if you can imagine, a pile of scrap metal and a finished cast iron fitting. Obviously, that's a little more complicated, but you would have melting, you would have casting and other transformation steps. But understanding those steps and where the energy goes is very important for strategic energy management. One thing we use is a process block diagram. If you see the one on the right here, there'll be a 25 question quiz after the webinar on this, so you need to memorize this diagram right quick. But this is actually a formaldehyde production system, and this just shows, the yellow boxes, I'm pointing to one or two, these yellow boxes, which you may or may not can read, they say electricity, natural gas, various things. It shows you the energy map. This maps the energy, and part of strategic energy management is understanding your energy sources, your significant energy users, your process energy versus your facility support equipment like chillers and air compressors, and various other loads and operational things. One good thing about strategic energy management, when you do an energy project or manage your energy, you tend to find good benefits to things that are not necessarily related to energy. We call these non-energy benefits. And here's just some examples. You may realize that you've increased your plant productivity or your product quality, or you've reduced scrap by managing your energy or an improvement project. You've broken a bottleneck. You may have had a process bottleneck. You did an energy analysis and figured out this equipment would be better, and now your bottleneck's gone, reduce overtime. I won't read all these, but you can see there's lots of possible things. One good thing we see in a lot of implementation of energy projects is it may have an environmental impact in a positive way. You may reduce emissions, reduce volatile organic compounds, VOCs. You may improve a safety issue or improve floor space. So there's a lot of benefits to energy projects and managing your energy that will affect your overall plant operations that can be very positive. So just looking at it from a continual improvement point of view, when we do energy management consulting and analysis, we like to get on the plant floor and really understand the processes. What are the raw materials? What are the finished products? What type of transformation has to take place to convert the raw material to the finished product? And where are the energy pain points, if you will, along that line? And do a step-by-step analysis of the process, then recommend energy solutions, follow up, and then do it again. And this fits in well with the ISO Plan, Do, Check, Act construct. Then we'll talk about that a little bit later. So why 50001 ready? We know strategic energy management is important. We know managing our energy is important and can have lots of benefits, both financial and other non-energy benefits. Well, 50001 ready is a recognition program. It's based on the ISO 50001 standard, just like the same standard that you would use for ISO certification. It's developed by the DOE. It's a 50001 ready web-based program. It's based on the Plan, Do, Check, Act principles of ISO 50001. It does not require you to become certified in ISO 50001. Different plants would have different goals. You may have a corporate mandate that says you shall be certified, or you may just be doing on your own energy management and just want to get to the recognition level, which 50001 is a great tool to do that. And you don't have to go through the third-party certification, which does have a cost associated with it. 50001 Ready is a system. It is a web-based 25 task system. This is the dashboard of where Advanced Energy is a partner with the DOE on the 50001 Ready. This is our dashboard. We're considered an active partner. So we could, if we had a client doing 50,001 ready, we would put them into this dashboard and we could track them and help them. But you can create an account. You can see here, you can create an account. Anyone can do this. It's free, open to the public, open source software website. Put in your email address and a password, and then you can see the navigator tools. Also there's proven results. People say, well, why do I need a system? You know, I'm doing energy management, I'm doing okay. Why do I need a formal system? Well, two very engaged companies with 50,001 ready, Schneider Electric and 3M, did a study. And they have some plants that have strategic energy management and some plants that do not. And the plants that have a strategic energy management formal program that utilizes 50,001 principles are almost double the average improvement of their energy performance. So you can see there, Schneider Electric, the ones that had a strategic energy management were 19% savings versus 11%. Now 11% is not bad, but 19% is better. 3M similarly, a little, not quite double with a system versus without a system. And 50,001 Ready is an excellent tool to help you formalize your strategic energy management. You may be doing a lot of good things, and this will just help you get it on track and formalized and force that continuous improvement, which is the whole point. So that's what we want to see is over time, we want to see the cost of our energy improve. So we really would want this to go down, but if this were like an energy intensity, we would want the improvement to be better over time. So what are some of the key items, just to repeat? 50,001 Ready. It's continual improvement based. It's similar to the lean principles or Kaizen or Six Sigma or any of those continuous improvement programs. It involves everyone in the plant in energy. If you do 50,001 Ready properly, everyone in the plant will have at least an awareness of energy, and people that work with energy, significant energy equipment like air compressors or boilers or significant energy processes, those particular operators will have a deeper understanding. So it really can impact your company culture. It requires commitment. It must be leadership driven, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. You have to have some resources and commitment. You can't just do this on a wing and a prayer or as a project, a flavor of the month. It's a true system that requires attention over time. It's data driven. That's a very good thing. As an engineer, I love data because data tells the truth. It shows you the facts. It shows you where you are. 50,001 and Ready are based on data. And it's also performance driven. You actually look at your energy performance as a baseline, and then you look at it a year or 2 years later, and you compare them, normalizing it, and you can really see what your improvement is. And it adds value. It incorporates energy decisions into all operations. One thing we did at plants I've worked with is they have actually a block on their capital investment form that says, was energy considered in this capital investment? They have energy projects as part of the capital investment planning. So you really get the value of energy decisions in the plant. Just like you would never consider running a manufacturing plant without considering quality of the part or safety. You want to get energy to that same level where everybody's thinking about energy the same way they're thinking about quality, safety, and environment. It's a pathway to help you if you want to do 50,001 Ready. The self-attesting, you say you did it and the DOE recognizes you, and you can see the steps here. But it could lead to certification in ISO 50001 or superior energy performance. So it is a good pathway. 50,001 Ready would be the basic, and then you could move on to the master's degree and the PhD degree if you wanted to. And you can see the requirements there get a little more rigorous. It does require third-party certification and third-party verification of your savings for SEP. So it is a pathway to more certifications if you want to do that. If you want to do 50,001 Ready and stop right here, that is just fine. 50,001 Ready is the perfect tool to do that. So I want to spend a little time talking about commitment. One of the most frustrating things that I see sometimes is a company that is so enthusiastic and they get started and then the rubber meets the road or something else comes up and the plug gets pulled and management says, no, we're going to go this direction, and it's just very frustrating. It really requires a strong management commitment from the very beginning. because 50001 and 50001 Ready does require some resources, some human resources, resources of time, resources of money. You may need to pay for people to travel and give people time to travel, to training or other things. You may need to consider capital if you're going to do energy improvements. Sometimes they're not free. We look for low cost, no cost energy improvements, and those are good. Sometimes we do need funding for capital projects. Communication from the top down is extremely important and required. It's required by 50001 that management communicate to the company and the workforce that they're doing energy, what's the energy policy, why is it important, why are we doing this. You have to provide resources for internal auditing and have management reviews. So I just want to really emphasize this, that management commitment is essential for the success of this. You don't really want to get started and go way down this road to a dead end, finding out that management was not really committed. So this is important to have up front, a dedicated management commitment to 50001 and 50001 Ready. So let's get into the tool a little bit specifically about 50001 Ready, the actual web-based program that the DOE has developed, and now Lawrence Berkeley Labs actually runs and operates the 50001 Ready tool now for DOE. But basically, it's a recognition for self-attesting to the implementation of 25 tasks. It's based on the structure of the standard, ISO 50001 standard. There's no certification required from third parties. It's open source, free. It's designed to be adopted by implementers to get people on their way. There's lots of resources, which we'll talk about, that are available. It's applicable to institutional, commercial, and industrial facilities. A hospital could do it, a hotel chain could do it, a commercial office building could do it, and of course, industrial facilities of all types could do it. One of the good features that's come out recently is it has an enterprise or multi-facility use. So if you go into your dashboard and you're like a corporate energy manager with 21 manufacturing sites in North America, you could upload all 21 sites and track all 21 sites within the 50001 Ready tool of their progress, and each site would have a dashboard, and you could organize and help assign people to various of the 25 tasks. So that enterprise multi-facility tool is very, very beneficial. So one of the things you do as part of 50001 Ready is you do measure your energy performance. You actually have to measure it. And there is a document from the DOE, 50001 Ready Measurement and Verification Protocol. And this tells you how you can measure your energy, but you do actually measure your energy performance over time. And that's key to continual improvement. So here's a close look at the dashboard. This is the actual dashboard you'll see if you log in and get an account. There's 4 sections: planning, energy review, continual improvement, system management. And you can see this company had finished their planning. About 88% of energy review was done. Hadn't really got into this third section, a little bit of system management for an overall 52%. But you could track this for yourself, and each of these has so many tasks under it, which we'll see in a minute. And if you had a multi-site, you could have, 8, 10, 20 sub companies with each dashboard here. So here's the 25 tasks. Those are the same 4 categories that you saw on the dashboard: planning, energy review, continual improvement, and system management. And we've kind of highlighted these in color so you can see the plan, do, check, act functions of these tasks. But these are the 25 tasks that you have to complete in order to receive recognition from the DOE. And again, this is self-attesting. Nobody comes and does a third-party audit. It's an honor system. You say you did scope and boundaries, and the rest of this, the DOE, you fill out the application and submit it, and they will recognize you as self-attesting to completing these 25 steps. So planning is very important. Management commitment is an individual task in here. We already talked about how important that is. Probably one of the most important sections, or maybe different from other ISO, is this energy review section. You really got to dig into the data. You got to know where your energy is coming from, where's it going, set some performance indicators to track what are your significant energy users, and so forth. The continual improvement in system, these are typical things for all any management system. If you have quality, you're going to have documentation and records. If you have safety or ISO 14000 environmental, you're going to have documents, you're going to have internal audits, you're going to have management review, you're going to have certain communication requirements, operational controls, corrective actions. So a lot of these over here in these two sections are common to many ISO systems. And leading from that, previous experience with another ISO system, while it's not necessary, it will be the most helpful to do 50001 ready. If you've got 9,000 or 14,000 for quality, or now the 45,000 for safety, those would be, you have some systems in place that would be most helpful as a foundation to start your 50001 ready. If you don't have any of these, that's fine. The 50001 ready navigator tool does not require or even need you to have any of this experience. You can do it from the ground up, and that's just fine too. It's just, if you do have this experience, you should leverage it to help you with your 50001 ready experience and implementation. So again, in the tool, in the navigator tool, it does have a section. If you are 9,000 or 14,000, it has an actual transition tips section, so you can see what relates to what to leverage that I just mentioned. Also, there's a cross-reference section right here, and then this is a cut sheet from the navigator tool itself. There's a guidance section that connects this task overview. This is the management commitment task overview tab, and it relates to these sections of the standard. So 4.2.1, 4.2.2, and so on. So there's a cross-reference in the 50001 ready tool that connects you to the 50001 standard by section number. And that can be useful too. If you want to go actually read what the standard says about management commitment, you can read that. One of the most useful things that I like about the 50001 ready tool, and a little background, if I'm a maintenance manager and the plant manager just came to me and says, hey, by the way, I want you to do 50001 ready. And you're like, okay, what's that? I've never heard of it. And that's the 7th hat that you're wearing, in addition to all the other 27 tasks you have and the alligators that are chasing you every day. Now you got to worry about 50001 ready. Reading the standard can be challenging and sometimes intimidating with 147 thou shalt do this and thou shalt do that in the standard. It's written in a very formal way for a reason. But the one really good thing that the navigator does, the 50001 ready navigator, it has this task overview section, this tab for every task. This is the energy policy task. At the completion of this task, you will have done this, and it tells you what you should have done when you finish this task. And that's very useful to someone who may not be an ISO person or may not necessarily enjoy reading the ISO standard itself. This is one of the most useful, and all 25 tasks has this. So it might say, you have done this, you have done that. There may be 7 or 8 things here, but at least when to self-attest to this task, I should at least have drafted an energy policy and gotten it approved by management. So that's very, very useful. And there's lots of downloads. I think there's like 130 some downloads that are available on the 50001 ready tool. It's got, like here, talking about energy policy again, it has an energy policy example. It's got an energy policy worksheet, and so forth. So for every task, it has resources. On the resources tab, you can see that. And those are very useful. I've downloaded all these. I have them available at my fingertips on my laptop, and they're very useful. And again, I'll go back to, if you have no experience with ISO of any kind and you wanted to start from scratch, there's tools, worksheets, examples, things to help you, and you won't have to necessarily go reinvent stuff from the ground up. It's very helpful. So you can do this 50001 ready without really any experience in ISO at all. Again, if you have 9,000 or 14,000 experience, you've got some of this stuff in place and you'll have a leg up, but you don't have to have that. But these resources are very, very useful. And they're in the form of PowerPoint, PDFs, document. I think there may even be a couple of videos, but all kinds of different resources, and they're very useful, downloadable, no cost, all free. One of the most useful things, and sometimes most intimidating, is documentation. Do I need to document this? Do I need to have a procedure for this? Well, one of the downloadable tools is this documentation guidance table. And it goes through all the tasks, all the steps in the standard, which task is it applicable to, task 1, task 19 in this case, talking about energy management scope and boundaries, and then it tells you what you need to do. Do you need a document? Do you need a record? So what's the difference between a document and a record? A document might be a procedure or something that tells somebody what to do, or it could be a form. If a document is a form, as soon as you fill out that form, now it's a record because it has data on it. So you may have a document that records air compressor parameters. Once you fill that form out for your air compressors with data for the week, now it's a record, and you have to keep records and documents to certain rules for ISO, and it explains it. But this table takes you through each of the tasks and says, once you go through it, and it's 5 or 6 pages long because there's 25 tasks, but if you follow this and it says you need a document for this task, you should have one. And this very, very useful. I found this very, very useful. So just to go back and kind of summarize a little bit, 50001 Ready takes the plan, do, check, act process from ISO and really boils it down into basic, clear steps. And just to summarize, planning is saying what you will do, then you do what you said, you verify that you did it, and if you didn't do it, you review it and improve it. That's the act, that's the management review, that's the checking that you do, the monitoring and measuring is the checking. If something's not correct, then you fix it. So continuous improvement. You're going to say what you're going to do for your energy, you're going to do what you said, you're going to verify that you did it, and if you didn't do it or if you didn't make it to where you thought you should, you review it and improve it. And that 50001 Ready has the tools and steps or tasks to put this into simple terms for people to understand. So let's shift a little bit and talk about some of the resources that are available. Again, there's the 50001 Ready dashboard. You can log into it, and I've got links later, and that'll be part of the stuff you get when you get the printout. You can see the links to all this stuff. But you get a dashboard that you can log into. You can set up multi-sites. You can set up your own site, and you get access to the 25 tasks, and you can list them, assign them, put notes on them, assign people's names to do them. There's like a not started, in process, in review, and completed level for each of the 25 tasks. There's an energy footprint tool. This is very useful. So lots of companies have their own thing. That's fine. They have spreadsheets or various things that help them track their energy. This energy footprint tool is a downloadable tool. It's available. It helps you put all your energy consumption in, your various sources. It could be electricity, natural gas are the two biggest ones we see. Some people have propane or diesel fuel or fuel oil or other various things. Could be in, solar energy, different things. And then relevant variables. Relevant variables are things that impact your energy. If you heat your building in the winter and cool your building in the summer, you're going to have more energy consumption in the summer for electricity, for air conditioning, and probably more consumption for natural gas in the winter for heating. So that's a relevant variable. So heating degree days and cooling degree days would impact your energy consumption. If you're a brick making factory and you make more bricks in August than you do in March, you're probably going to use more energy in August because you're making more bricks. So your production levels can impact so you can include those relevant variables in here. The energy uses, what are your big energy users? It also will calculate greenhouse emissions if you're interested in that. But one good thing about it is you can use this energy footprint tool. There's a tab you can copy and paste into the DOE energy performance indicator tool, which is another resource, and see what your energy performance is. So this is a very useful tool. It's not for everybody. Not everybody uses it, but it is available as part of the 50001 Ready that you can use to document your energy consumption. Now we'll talk about the energy NPI Lite is what DOE calls it, is the energy performance indicator. And it's a companion tool to the navigator and the energy footprint tool. And you can upload your energy data, your relevant variables, and it'll do a linear regression analysis of your energy. So you would have maybe a baseline here and energy performance here, and then you can see what your energy's done. And in this particular case, there was a forecast model of and a 5.58% energy improvement from the baseline. And then you have some other data down here that you can look at. It accepts energy data back from the footprint tool. It'll accept data from here. You can copy and paste a tab in this tool and paste it into this window of this tool. So these are very useful and very helpful, and we use these all the time. Again, this is not required to use these. You do have to measure your energy performance for 50,001 ready, but you don't have to use this method. This is made available by DOE as a method that you can use. So again, here's a view of the multi-site navigator. You can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sites listed. These are from California. You got the Berkeley lab, San Francisco facility, Oakland office, building 90, and so forth. And you can put multiple sites in to a navigator dashboard, and you can track as many as you want. If you're the corporate energy manager and have 8 sites that you want to track, you can put them all in here. It's a very useful tool for multi-site. Again, here's the resources. I'm not going to go through these. These will be available in the slides that you get. But there's the 50,001 program overall, the Ready Navigator, the EMP Light tool, footprint tool, and so forth. So please use these. Here's a couple of key contacts that'll be coming to you. Bruce Lung, great guy with Better Buildings, Better Plants program, and then Pete Langlois is the program manager for 50,001 Ready at DOE. Know both of these guys very well. They're great to talk to. They're happy to talk to you one-on-one. So please reach out to them. Just don't tell them you know me. Don't do that. No, I'm just kidding. So what are the outcomes that we look for when we work with somebody with 50,001 ready? First of all, they're going to gain an understanding of ISO 50001, the basic structure, what it's about, what it's for. We want them to be able to use the Navigator tool to complete the 25 tasks. And completing those tasks, make the application to DOE for recognition. And the whole point of doing all this is increase energy performance and overall plant operations. So we're going through these to get to this end goal. That's what we really want to do. We want to make more bricks per kilowatt hour at the end of the day and improve our plant operations, which can be some of those non-energy benefits of reducing overtime, improving floor space utilization, improving the quality of the work environment, things like that. So here's just a quick, I'm not going to read all these steps, but this is basically the steps you need to take to get recognized by DOE for 50,001 ready. You implement, you do the 25 tasks, 50,001 ready walks you through it step by step. You apply, you check your energy reduction, you measure your energy improvement or check your energy measurement of what you've done with a baseline to the future, and then you submit self-attesting that the Navigator is complete and been executed, and sign off on that and submit your data, and then the DOE will recognize you for 50,001 ready completion. So let's talk a little bit about how some of the ways we've seen to implement 50,001 in a group. Certainly we can work one-on-one, you can work individually on this, or if you have 8 companies within your own corporation, you could certainly make a cohort internally. That's fine too, but the word cohort comes from the ancient Roman, which was made up of 600 soldiers, was a cohort. It's a group of people that have common goals. And early on in the superior energy performance and ISO 50001, advanced energy did work with a cohort. And Harbeck from Ontario, Cummins right here in North Carolina, down in Rocky Mount, Coca-Cola, and Metamune were all in that set. There's 4 others, but these were all in that cohort. You can see over here some of the impressive percentage improvements that these companies got going through ISO and superior energy performance in a cohort. Very useful group effort. You train together, you learn from each other, you tell each other best practices, you learn from each other's lessons learned or mistakes made along the way. So typically a cohort that we see has 5 to 7 companies that have similar strategic energy management goals and similar experience levels. I would say it would probably be best if you did not have any 50,001 ready experience. It would be good to have all the companies in the cohort have that same level. So if the cohort, it would be more difficult, I think, if half the cohort had no experience and half the cohort was certified in 14, 9,000 and 45,000. So kind of want to consider that. But anyway, similar experience levels. Ideally, non-competing companies, that's never been a problem in any cohorts I've worked in, but you may not want to have Lowe's, Home Improvement, and Home Depot in the same cohort. I don't know that that would be a problem, but anyway, that's just something to consider. But you do want the participants in the cohort to open and share information and best practices. They don't necessarily have to share all their energy data, but at least how they approach things and what they've done and what works for them. And again, just to beat that drum a little bit again, it does require a management commitment to participate in a cohort, because if you do participate, there's time to do the homework, to go to the training, have phone calls. There may be some money needed for travel, for implementation. So again, members of a cohort that want to join and go down this road really need a good, strong management commitment to participate in a cohort, as well as 50,001 Ready or 50,001 Ready by itself anyway. So again, previous experience is good, but not required. It's definitely a plus. So I'm in a cohort, now what? So if you, typical cohort that we do, if you're in a cohort, DOE type or something that we've worked with, typically you would have a kickoff webinar, you would introduce each other, you would present the business case for strategic energy management, talk about the who, what, why, where of the program, have some initial homework, get people to download all the tools, get registered in the Navigator for 50,001, download the tools, and we would have an initial face-to-face training event and talk about some of the goals. Typically, we do a face-to-face training event in the cohort for a kickoff 1 to 2 days to review in detail the fundamental things we've talked about today, but in much more detail. Demonstrate the 50,001 Ready, review the tools, and start working through some of the selected tasks and start assigning some homework for people to work on. In between face-to-face meetings or after face-to-face meetings, we typically have phone calls and check-ins with individual companies and also with the entire cohort to share ideas and thoughts. Typically what the participants in a cohort get, they get homework assignments, they get the monthly check-in calls, and typically we'll have a quarterly call with everybody to keep things moving. And that's the key, keep things moving, don't get bogged down. So what is expected of a participant in a cohort? When we work with them, we really need that commitment, but we need people to show up. If you're in the cohort and you don't show up for the training or the phone calls, what's the point? So attendance, proper preparation, put your time in, get your homework done, be engaging, participating, set up your 50,001 Ready account, set up your multi-sites, and we can help do that. Download the tools, play with the tools, make sure, which you probably already have, but you may not, but make sure you have all your data of all your site energy sources. Monthly is typically the basis that we use, monthly consumption. So that's usually good. One time we went to a plant and they said, we want to use our 15-minute interval data for our consumption. And we said, that's great, but that's millions of data points, and monthly might be better. So, but again, your production data. If you're making chemicals, gallons of chemical, pounds of metal, numbers of widgets, whatever, you need to have your production data and all your energy site sources monthly consumption. And you got to have a laptop when you come to class. All this stuff's based on having a laptop. It's all online. All the training will be directly online. And of course, bring your enthusiasm. That always helps. So let's talk about kind of a summary of 50,001 Ready. It's worth the effort. It absolutely is worth the effort. There's not a person I've worked with that hasn't said, man, I'm glad I did this. We really have organized our energy. We know better where it's coming from. We know better where it's going. We got continuous improvement. We got everybody down to the last temp that was hired on Monday that's aware of this. And 50,001 Ready is a good alternative. If you're not wanting to get certified or not required to get certified, it's a great alternative to get self-attested. You're doing all the right things. You're getting all the benefit of it. Unless you need that ISO 50001 certification on your wall, then it's perfect for you. Help for the weary. Having worked in manufacturing for 30 years, these guys are busy. They've got to make production. They've got to make sure the plant's running. They got to make sure everybody's safe. And now they got to worry about 50,001 Ready. So 50,001 Ready is a very good tool. It's a heavy lift, but it's got good leverage from 50,001. It really can help you. It's got the right tools. It's a step-by-step, task-by-task process. You're going to have proven improvement. If you do this, you're going to improve your energy. There's no way you can successfully implement 50,001 ready and not have energy improvement. You're going to get there. It has the dashboard tracking. It's got the best resources. They're all downloadable. And you say, it's an honor system. You say, I did this, and you apply. And the best thing is it's all free. And there are support, help desk, and other things available in addition to all the tools. So what we want to do, or what we like to do with 50,001 Ready, is get people, your company, right in the middle of all these resources. And we'll click through these. First of all is your utilities, your natural gas utility, your local electrical utility. They're a great resource. They're going to be the ones that help you with data. They know how many therms of natural gas they sold you. They know how much kilowatt demand and kilowatt hours of energy you've used. Use your local utility to help you collect that data on your energy consumption. Very good resource. Then, of course, all the things we've been talking about today. You got all the DOE programs that are out there. 50,001 Ready is what we're focused on. There's also superior energy performance if you want to get to that level. There's the Better Plants program, which is related to these and supports 50,001 Ready wholeheartedly. You got consultants. Advanced Energy is one. There's lots of people out there. There's lots of great energy consultants other than us that are helping people implement 50,001 Ready. So take advantage of those. One of the training partner that's developed all this training materials and slide decks and everything, Georgia Tech, has done a great job. And DOE resources for cohorts, they've done lots of cohorts, have lots of great experience and resources within the DOE to support you. And then, of course, if you do go to certification, you will need a verification or a third party for verification. There's just a couple listed up there. There's quite a few that do ISO 50001. But you can see if your company's right here in the middle, you got a world of help out there. Some of it's free, some of it's not free, but you do have lots of help for your company to go down the road of 50,001 Ready. So if for the WRP, Waste Reduction Partners, and the Energy Stewardship Initiative, we really want to get your contact or your information. If you're interested in more information, you just want to know more or more details or want to talk to me or Terry, or if you're interested in participating in a cohort, we would love nothing better than to take people from this group today or people from the that are listening in to form a cohort in North Carolina for implementation of 50,001 Ready. So if you're interested in that, please contact Terry and I, and we'll definitely follow up with you. And of course, there'll be some follow-up emails and the program itself. We did a survey and we found out that 4 out of 5 energy consultants surveyed recommend 50,001 Ready to prevent this from happening to your energy team. But please note the asterisk right here. It says no actual survey was taken. This is just to make a point. But truly, 50,001 Ready, I'll tell you, 1 out of 1 consultants believes in it. I think it's great. I've used it, I've read it, I've downloaded it, I've implemented it, and it's very useful. It's very user-friendly. It really helps people stay on the road. It gives you the task that makes you assign dates and get them completed and get that recognition. And if you do want to go, if somebody came to me and said, I'm not worried about recognition, I just want to get ISO certified, I would still say, well, the best way to do it is go down the 50,001 Ready pathway. It's the absolute best tool to get certified. So if you know you want to get certified, still use 50,001 Ready, get the recognition, and then get certified. There's no better way to get certified than doing 50,001 Ready. If you don't want to get certified, fine. Just do the recognition and stop there. You'll still get all the benefits. You'll be doing the right things. You'll be saving energy. You'll be managing energy, and you'll be continually improving your energy. So here's the contacts. They'll be in the slides that you get from us. Contact Terry or myself and let us know, hey, we want to be in a cohort, or we want more information, or can you help me with this, or how do I download that? Just let me know. Okay, we're going to transition over to Angela. Angela's going to talk to us a little bit about the Environmental Stewardship Initiative.
Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me all right. Terry is working on taking over control, so as soon as my slide comes back up. There we go. All right, so my name is Angela Barger, and I manage the Environmental Stewardship Initiative, which is a program within the Department of Environmental Quality. It's kind of like what he's been talking about with the 50001 Ready, except we focus more on the environmental standard, which is ISO 14001. But again, we don't require that you go through a certification process or anything like that. If you just want to set environmental goals, then we're perfectly happy to help you with those environmental goals. So it's a three-tiered program, and the lowest level is all about that assistance and recognition piece. And then as you go through the process of having a mature environmental management system and then doing some even more aggressive goals and things like that, then you can move up to the higher levels of the program. But what we do mainly is help facilities to network with each other. We provide training on the ISO 14001 standard, and it's all about that that cohort model, but it's on the environmental side, not just energy, although energy can be a part of it. As you can see from the slide, that we require an annual report, and from that annual report we get these kinds of numbers reported from our members, including that $8 million saved, and that's from energy projects in addition to other environmental projects that our members have reported on. And those are just reported numbers. So we have a lot of companies that are part of our program that don't necessarily report that data. So if you want to be a part of that, it's voluntary, it's no cost. We're paid for with tax dollars, so feel free to use our services. We work with the WRP. They are also a part of the same division, so they come out and help. And Terry will tell you more about their program. But Terry, if you want to advance to the next slide. This is some of the folks that are in our program. So you're in good company. These are the folks that we try to help you network with. We do a lot of networking types of events, including an annual conference. And our next event will be a hazardous waste roundtable, which is going to be held at Daimler Cleveland, which is in Rowan County, on December 5th. So if anyone's interested in that, please let us know, and we'll make sure that you get on the list so that you start getting information from us on those kinds of events that are coming up. So thank you all for attending this. We're very excited for this partnership. And Terry, I'll let you take on WRP.
Great, thank you, Angela. Again, the Environmental Stewardship is a great program. If you're not already a member, you should definitely look into it. Mike, thanks for that great presentation. We have one more resource slide before we get to question and answers. This is Terry Albrecht. I'm the Program Director for Waste Reduction Partners. Waste Reduction Partners is an interesting government-sponsored technical assistance team that engages retired and volunteer engineers and scientists across the state, essentially to do sustainability consultants with business and industry. We are based at the Landesgau Regional Council, but we have a partnership with NCDEQ. This is non-regulatory. The technical assistance that we provide is usually provided at no cost. We work with about 150 organizations a year, and we do things like ASHRAE level 1 and 2 energy assessments and assistance with energy management programs. We do a lot of work in solid waste reduction strategies. Again, these are really on-site one-on-one work with clients across a large number of non-residential sectors. And we have really great results from our program. About over 65% of what we recommend and suggest to our clients through recommendations actually get implemented, and we're tracking about $137 million of utility cost savings from our clients since the year 2000, and 5.66 trillion BTUs. That's a lot of BTUs. But we also have a couple 100,000 tons of solid waste that's been diverted from landfilling, and a lot of other achievements from the customers and clients we work with. Again, this is only available within North Carolina, and my contact information is there, but you can go to our Waste Reduction Partner website. You can initiate a project there, and we'll follow up with you about your needs. So hope you can take advantage of that resource. So with that, we're gonna move to question and answers, and Angela Barger is gonna read some questions off and let Mike or other of us answer those depending on what those are. So so Angela, I'll kind of turn it back over to you.
Okay. So the first question is, if one is a plant engineer and wants to lead the effort in a plant, what initial training sessions would you recommend to get started with the process?
Yeah, this is Mike. I'll be happy to answer that. As a plant engineer, and a lot of times that's the plant engineer or the facility engineer is the person that gets a task or designated to look into 50001 and 50001 ready, or an energy management system. And there's lots of good training on our slide. The training partner, Georgia Tech, offers lots of courses. One of the best courses is the on being a practitioner, they call it, of energy management systems. And there's actually a certification you can get for that, but they have like a 3 or 4 day course on being a certified practitioner for energy management systems, which focuses on the ISO 50001 standard. And probably I haven't been to that class in probably 6 years, but it probably does incorporate 50001 ready at this point, or at least talks about it some. That would be a great class. We offer classes periodically. The North Carolina Industrial Extension Service, which is not called that anymore. It's still IES, but it's something different, Industrial Exploration or something. But anyway, they offer classes on 14,000 and 50,001 periodically. So there's lots of resources. I would recommend probably you could look at Georgia Tech, type in, ISO 50001 training opportunities into the web browser and look for those. There's lots of consultants that offer training. There's lots of government agencies, state agencies that offer training, and of course then there's the DOE Georgia Tech training opportunities that are available. But the Certified Practitioner in Energy Management Systems course from Georgia Tech is probably one of the best that I've been to and know about. And if you can take that course and take a test and become a certified practitioner with a certificate in that, if you want to go to that level. But if you just want to take the course, it would be very, very beneficial.
Okay. How about this one? Is the 50001 ready program usable for commercial buildings as well?
Yes, absolutely. Some of the same principles that apply to manufacturing certainly apply to commercial buildings, institutional, college campuses, hospitals, places like that have done 50001 ready, have got recognition, have done ISO 50001 certification, and superior energy performance. Hilton Hotels has 4 or 5 of their hotels certified to superior energy performance. So it absolutely is. It's just a little different. The energy sources, you got to know your energy sources. Typically, the significant energy users for commercial are going to be heating and cooling and lighting. They don't have manufacturing processes, but they do have, lighting, heating. Occupancy levels can affect energy. How many people are there? How often are they open? Are they closed at night? And things like that. But absolutely, the principles apply. The principles are good. The 25 tasks in the Navigator standard apply to commercial buildings, hospitals, college campuses, and things like that. Yes, absolutely. Just like industrial, it works.
Okay. Along that same line, state agencies have a baseline of 2002 to 2003 that they are already using to track performance. Is this program amenable to users putting in an existing baseline without the years and date in between present data?
Yeah, I think there's, and for 50001 ready, I'm not sure if there's limits. For 50001 certification, I think there's an expiration date or statute of limitation, so to speak, on your baseline. But you can certainly have a baseline that you know of in the past. So if you've been tracking energy for years, you don't have to start and make 2019 your baseline. You can go back in time. I don't remember exactly how many years. I think at least up to 10, maybe. 2003 may be a little bit far back for a baseline. But certainly you can, you know, if you wanted to start 50,001 ready and really go down that road and say, okay, my baseline is going to be 2014 or 2018 or 2017, and then in 2020 I'm going to see where I am based on what I've already done. You don't have to do everything from here forward. If you've done energy projects the past 6 years, you can certainly get credit for that. It's just a matter of how you set up your energy tool and your energy footprint tool, and how you load up the data in the linear regression model, which we certainly can help with. And then you pick a baseline, you pick a achievement period or a reporting period, and there can be, you know, they can be back to back. It can be 12 months and 12 months, right, back to back, or it can be 12 months, 2 years later, and then 12 months of a reporting period, and you compare those. So there's lots of flexibility. The only thing I'm not sure if you can go all the way back and use a 2003 baseline. Certainly you could do it mathematically. I'm just not sure. I think it would maybe be fine for 50,001 ready, but you may want to pick one, just set another baseline in 2015 or 2017 and then compare that. But there's lots of flexibility to do baselines at different times. Yes, there is.
Okay. So the next one is, given the significant energy used in pumping systems, is water conservation part of the program?
In 50,001 ready, specifically, the amount of water consumed or used is not considered. It's strictly the energy sources. So the electricity to pump the water, the other electricity or natural gas used to process water in waste treatment is, but actual water consumption for 50,001, it's all about the energy. So it would be the energy to move the water, but not necessarily the water itself. Now that's certainly something that could be integrated into a 14,001 environmental for energy aspects or aspects of improving your environmental impact. But the 50,001 ready tool and the 50,001 standard does not specifically address the consumption or actually use of the water itself, only the energy to move it.
Okay, great. And the last one I have is, any suggestions for devices to use as temporary submeters to measure gas and electricity used by individual pieces of equipment?
Yeah, we don't specifically, as far as any vendor equipment, I wouldn't know, but yeah, lots of people do, and it's basically, it's similar. It may not have to be as robust as a Duke Energy or a Dominion Energy power meter that measures your kilowatt hours in the plant, but it's basically the same thing. Lots of people use equipment like just a regular current transformer, a CT that you put around all three phases of your power, and then you can connect that and a voltage tap to a watt node. Watt node is a very popular thing, and it'll calculate power. So you need current and voltage, and you need just a voltage tap that's 480 or 240 or whatever you're using, 4160, and then you have your three phases of current, and it all feeds into a watt node. And the watt node, you can set it up to take a data point every second, every minute, every 15 minutes, and then it'll give you a power, and you can dump all that into an Excel spreadsheet and see what your air compressor or your motor control center or your production line is doing. For natural gas, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's things out there that measure. I know plants that have actually installed natural gas volumetric type meters to see how much gas is going to a particular piece of equipment. One plant I know actually did it for compressed air. They measured compressed air to their various production lines in standard cubic feet per minute. So there are things out there to do that with, and a lot of them have the ability to, you know, take that data and send it into a dashboard or a system that you can track and accumulate data and download. Watt node, I'm not sure if watt node, I think they do, but some of those have even wireless. So you can have a watt node out in the middle of the plant and have your wireless network in the plant be able to pick that up and send it to your laptop. They have very sophisticated wireless metering nowadays that can be very useful. So there's lots of options out there. Some of the utilities like Duke Energy or Dominion or the co-ops do have some sub-metering programs where they can help you. It's not necessarily free, but they know the equipment very well. They have trade allies, and they can help recommend equipment and or give you a quote to say install. You say you want 25 sub-meters for 25 different lines or pieces of equipment or motor control centers. they can help you with that. And of course, electrical contractors can do that also.
Great. If anyone else has questions, feel free to type them into the question box. We have a few that we came up with that might be helpful to you. So I'll go through those and give you a chance to enter some more of your own. So let's start with what size organization does it make sense to pursue 50,001 ready with? Is there a utility cost threshold you would suggest, or some other threshold?
Yeah, we've looked at that, and it's interesting. Sometimes you'll see it's funny. You'll see a report. Here's an example of something that's kind of funny. We'll see something where it says that this company consumes $12,000 or spends $12,000 a year on air compressor to run their plant. And then you'll read down in the report, and somewhere later on down in the report, and say, if you implement this, you'll save $15,000 on your air compressors. Well, you just told me I only spent 12, so how can I save 15? So really the answer kind of depends. Personally, I think any plant of any size, even if it's two guys in their garage machining parts for somebody, can benefit from 50,001 ready. Obviously, if you go for certification, a typical certification could cost between $20,000 and up to $35,000 to get the third-party certification. So if your electric bill is only, $20,000 or $25,000 a year, and you save 10% of it, you can save $2,500 a year. You're not going to spend $35,000 to get certified. So that's kind of a thumb rule there. But as far as the threshold, if the principles can apply. Again, the plants I worked at, we've spent between $800,000 up to about $3.5 to $4 million a year on energy, on electricity, not just energy, electricity by itself. So those kind of things, those kind of plants are obviously great candidates for that. I don't know of a threshold, a lower limit. I wouldn't say that, hey, if you don't pay over $500,000 a year for electricity, don't worry about it. I haven't heard that. I don't recommend that. I personally believe everybody can benefit from this. Not everybody needs to go the whole 9 yards and fully implement 50,001 ready, or definitely not get certified. There's definitely a break-even point for getting certified. You definitely would want to have enough money savings to cover your cost of certification. But as far as a threshold number, most of the plants we work with, honestly, have been big, large, heavy-duty manufacturing plants and some commercial sites that pay, in the hundreds of thousands, even up to $1 million a year in electricity. That's just the most we've worked with. I do believe it's possible for it to be beneficial to smaller plants for sure as well. Thanks.
Great. Okay, so how much granularity in measurement and tracking? In other words, what will we have to do studies on each piece of equipment, or can it be areas of the factory, or is it up to the energy management owners to make that call?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we see that all the time. And basically, typically we try to encourage people to use monthly for the periodicity, and it depends on if it's a significant energy user. If you do your study of your energy and you come up with kind of a pie chart of where your energy goes, and you see that air compressors is 12%, chillers are 18%, and my powder coat paint line is 27%, then you would definitely probably want to understand the energy consumption of those three significant areas. You don't have to have if you had, like when I worked at GKN Driveline, we had probably 450 individual machines cutting metal, making chips, grinders, and lathes, and turning machines and ovens. And there was no way we were going to know what each individual machine made, or even each line. But if you have something that's a real big energy user, like say you have a big boiler, you use a lot of steam or hot water, and the boiler, but with the electricity for the fans and the combustion burner and then all the natural gas, that might be 15% of your total energy cost is that one boiler. Then you may want to consider, really getting down to the weeds on what that boiler is consuming in terms of natural gas and electricity. And another thing, and it depends on how the plant was organized. Some plants, most of the plants I go into, you'd just be plain lucky if you were to find a motor control center that really was tied to one line, and you could meter that motor control center, and that was your line that did X process. Sometimes the electricity is organized very well because they designed it that I've got this electrical panel that controls line 3. If I monitor that electrical panel, I know that line 3 is consuming all that electricity, and there's not anything pulled off to line 4, line 7, or lighting or anything else. That's rare, but that's possible if you could have it. But looking at your significant energy users, in my opinion, is going to drive you to what you need to be more granular or have more specific data on. And then the rest, say, the rest of the plant, the balance of the plant is 58%, and that's over 60 or 80 or 500 different machines. That's okay, because no individual one of those machines is necessarily a significant energy user, and you wouldn't need to know that this lathe number 27 was pulling how many kilowatt hours. But you might want to know that line 12, or that the boiler, or that all your air compressors, or some big something was detailed. Get details on that. Thanks.
Okay. So the next one is, do my ISO 9000 or 14001 processes help me with 50001 ready? Does documentation, training, auditing correlate? And actually, I can talk a little bit to this one, and then I'll let Michael take over again if he feels the need. So all of the ISO standards, 9,000, 14,000, 45,000, 50,000, they're all set up to be able to be integrated with each other. So they all have policy in the same place. They all have that context piece in the same place. So if you have an ISO system of any kind already in place, it will definitely help you organizationally with 50,001. Now, I don't know if any of the specifics, goal setting or anything like that is the same. So I'll let Michael address that one if he knows.
Yeah, that's true. They do have the same high level structure. So theoretically, if you go into 50,001 and read section 4, if you go into 14,001 and read section 4, it's talking about the same topic. There are some special things in 50,001, and that's mainly related to the energy review, figuring out where your energy is coming from, what are the sources, where's it going, figuring out your significant energy users. But a whole lot of the things are identical. Just like Angela said, you're going to have a management review. If you're doing 9,014 now, you're doing a management review with your management review team. You're taking minutes, you're writing agendas, you have a schedule. All you got to do really is say, if that you have a procedure for that, you just would update that procedure and add energy to it. So now when you do your management review, you also review 14, 9, and 50,001. So you don't have to really reinvent a management review system. Same thing with internal auditing. Internal auditing is a requirement of every ISO thing I've ever seen. You self-audit yourself. And one thing we've done training for people to be internal auditors, because there's one or two things you can do. You can have your own internal auditors, or you can hire a consultant to internal audit you. A lot of people like to have their own, and I've seen people that have their 14,000, the people that run 14,000 audit 50,000, the people that are running 50,000 audit 14,000, and vice versa, and quality too. So they kind of audit each other. So that, that system, internal auditing, management review, corrective action. If you have 9,014, you have a corrective action system. You put things in the corrective action log, you take corrective action, you follow up, you document it. You don't have to reinvent that system. You just add your energy nonconformities into that same system. So absolutely leverage those systems that you have already. I've worked with places where they had an environmental safety and health, EHS, environmental health and safety handbook, and we took it and rewrote it, and now it was the environmental energy health and safety handbook. And you just had to add a few things, a few specific sections for the energy, and then you just tweaked a few of the other sections to mention energy as a group. So there's lots of things you can do with your existing systems. You would not at all have to reinvent anything for 50,001. About the only unique things is your energy measurement plan, your energy review. Those would have standalone documents and systems, but all the typical systems would be duplicated and would be able to use what you've got for your other systems. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so we have a couple of resource questions that I'm going to throw at you together. One is, what is an approximate preliminary budget needed to get approved to kick off a 51,000 ready process? And the other one is based more on number of person hours it takes to maintain the process annually once you've passed the learning curve and have it set up, like full-time employee hours equivalent to set up. So.
Yeah, the budget. Let's start with the people. Typically, you know, there's typically a key person, and then one thing that ISO 50001 and the 50001 Ready Navigator does push is a team. So you will have an energy team, and it's very much encouraged to have that team be cross-functional with operators, production management, maintenance, purchasing, accounting, you know, a good cross-functional team. And typical teams I've seen, once they're up and running, meet monthly at a minimum, and then they have some in-between work. Getting started, of course, is going to be a little more busy, but you know, once you get the thing up and running, you know, it's not going to be a 24/7 or a 40-hour week full that you need a person doing this. And again, that depends. That is somewhat plant size and complexity dependent. If you have a corporate energy person that's got 7 plants and all 7 plants are working or implementing 50,001 Ready, that could be a full-time job. I'm not sure how many plants it takes to make it a full-time job, but if somebody's covering multiple sites, it may be a full-time job. Typically, once you get up and running, you know, the first 6 months is going to be a lot, you know, maybe half time, half a person, full-time, 20 hours a week. But once you get it up and running, you know, we've seen people be able to maintain it. And again, a lot of times it's combined. So if there's an environmental health and safety manager, now that person becomes the environmental health, safety, and energy manager. Sometimes the energy manager is separate in the maintenance or facilities group. So those have some dependencies too. But it's not overwhelming. And the budget really initially is just labor. And maybe some travel if you travel to pick up some training, but it's not a huge investment of anything other than somebody's labor hours. Now, once you get into the projects and identifying energy projects and start getting the energy improvement into your capital budgeting for a new lighting or a new efficient burner on your boiler or some new variable speed air compressor or whatever it may be, then that'll be some money that you'll have to spend. But the actual money just to start 50,001 Ready, all the tools and the software and the help from DOE is free. Now, if you want to hire a consultant to help you get started or get some training from a consultant, that could be a cost, and that varies by consultant. We've seen, I think, the Cummins Rocky Mount engine plant that did full superior energy performance certification over about a 24-month period. I think their labor cost for 24 months to get all the way to superior energy performance was around $180,000, and that included the 2 certifications because you had to get certified in ISO and then SEP. So, you know, $200,000 for a plant, a 1 million square foot plant, $200,000 spread over 24 months to get all the way to SEP. That's one data point I do have. So if you were not only going to 50,001 Ready and you were a smaller plant spread over 24 months or 18 months, it would be less than that. And again, the timing question comes up. You know, how long does this take? Well, it depends on how fast you want to go. But if you have 14 or 18 or 9,000 in place, I see no reason you can't get recognized in 6 months. I see no reason that a plant cannot get recognized in 6 months. If you don't have any of those certifications, it's a little bit of a heavier lift. It's certainly not prohibitive, but it might take a little longer because you got to build a little bit of a foundation, and you may need a little more dedicated resources up front for both. And but if you have nothing in place right now, you're going to need a little more work. But certainly, if you have 14 and 9 in place, I think you can do 50,001 ready and get recognized in 6 months if you really want to. I see no problem doing that. Thanks, Angela.
All right, we have a couple more questions, and then we'll let everybody get back to their real jobs. All right, so the next one is, how does one account for seasonal variations affecting product mix in plant and consequent energy usage within the program?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we struggle with that sometimes. Really, there's two aspects of that. If you're heating the building or cooling the building, you can normalize your natural gas and electricity with heating and cooling degree days. If the weather or the seasonal impacts your product or the product mix, then we have to kind of figure out, what is a logical unit of production. And sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes it's very difficult to know what, if you're making 1,000 different products, and sometimes you make more of this one, which is more energy intense in the spring because a lot of people buy it for the summer. Those kind of things you kind of have to factor in and try to figure out what you can really use as a kilowatt hours per unit per. Some people use earned hours instead of the product, because the amount of labor used to make the product can be indicative of the amount of energy consumed to make the product. So some people use earned labor hours across their product mix. If you have a big product mix, sometimes you can use that. But that is a sometimes can be difficult. I mean, if somebody's making 6 different gears and that's all they make, and they make them pretty much the same all year long, then just how many gears you make as it goes up and down affects your energy. If you're making 27,000 different pieces of makeup, like the Revlon plant up in Oxford, North Carolina, they may have literally thousands, 50,000 different SKUs for different makeup products. And so, what's their product? Is it, how many of this and that? It'd be almost impossible to track. So a plant like that makes a lot of variable products, 1,000 different kinds, but all similar, labor hours can be useful. Earned hours against production can be a useful tool for that. Thanks.
All right, last question. I think this is a good one to end on. So what actions would you suggest for someone who is just getting started in the industry but wants to learn more about 50,001 Ready, even if their employer isn't ready to use it yet?
That's a great question. Call me. No, but yeah. If somebody's interested in 50,001, learning more about it, or what can they kind of start to do, or there's actually some good resources in the 50,001 Ready Navigator tool to help people to convince management that it's the right thing to do. They have some resources in there in the management commitment section to help. There's a couple of PowerPoints and a couple of real good things, and we have tons of resources too, and any other 50,001 or energy consultant would. But yeah, basically, check the tool out, or if you want to call me or Terry, that's fine. I'm happy to talk to anybody that wants to just talk about the basics or how to get started and some things to go look at. We have lots of resources that we can just, shoot out an email, links and things. And but yeah, sometimes we find that there'll be a plant with somebody that's very interested in energy management, has done a lot of great things, is thinking about 50,001 Ready, but it's not coming down from the top yet. So sometimes it goes from the bottom up. The upper management realizes, hey, this is a good thing, and then the commitment comes, and then it comes from the top back down. So sometimes it does start at the plant floor or first level supervisor, and then works its way up, then management commitment, and then back down. But getting that, helping people understand the business case and understanding why this makes sense, why this is valuable, how this is going to save us money. There's lots of resources, and we have things that we've done to help people with just a little bit of information about their plant to say, hey, you're spending $2 million a year on electricity and $600,000 a year on natural gas. And if we just estimated, if you implemented this and we just made a guess, you could save 2% a year. Well, here's the savings, here's the payback, here's the cost. it's a go. It's a definite no. It's a go to do it financially. So we can help do that. And that's some of the times the best thing is just to have the business case, because most plant managers or corporate people, they're going to want to know what's it cost and what's it benefiting me. And if you know those two things, you can help get your point across.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much, Mike, for this very insightful and informative presentation, and Angela
Sure.
for speaking and coordinating our questions. In conclusion, we hope that you found some benefit in this. You've got contact information that you can follow up on. As you log out of this, you will get a survey. We'd love to get your feedback about um, this webinar and some future webinars we'd like to do, as well as your interest in cohorts. And again, we will be sending a follow-up email that will come out with a link to the recording as well as the PDF slides. So again, thank you for attending, and we look forward to you participating next time.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. All right.